Isekai was not the old popular buzzword that it is now. In fact, in the early 2000s, going into another world was just a setting and not a specific genre. Basically, the anime scene before Sword Art Online. But there is this isekai from that time period that have a special place in my heart, and that is Zero no Tsukaima, or the Familiar of Zero. The year Zero no Tsukaima came out was a really strong year for anime. I don't know if you've heard them, but titles such as Death Note, Fate Stay Night, Gintama, Ergo Proxy, Black Lagoon, Ouran High School Host Club, Suzumiya Haruhi no Yutsu, Code Geass, and many more famous titles came out this year. And Zero no Tsukaima isn't the best out of all its contemporaries, but it was just memorable, and you don't need to be the best to be such. Perhaps you have never heard of Zero no Tsukaima. Then let me enlighten you with the tale of Zero. The story starts with the first kiss. This is Louise Francois Leblanc de la Valliere. Pardon my French, I only watched the Japanese version. Louise is a noble who attends a magical academy, but whenever she casts any kind of spell, it just blows up. Imagine if every time Hermione from Harry Potter casts Wingardium of Leviosa, it just explodes. Speaking of which, the aesthetics of this anime really nailed the Hogwarts-esque feel. And I think this played an advantage back in the day where people didn't associate more Harry Potter to be a bad thing. Anyways, because of the sparky boom magic, she gets the nickname Louise the Zero, or Zero no Ruizu. One day, she and her fellow classmates were asked to summon a familiar that will be their respective partners for life. And this is where the isekai part comes in. Louise ends up summoning Hiraga Saito from our world, and after a kiss to complete the contract, Saito becomes a familiar to a mage that everyone calls Zero. This was a simple premise, and looking back after experiencing all the many isekais, yeah, I'll say it, the plot is generic. But that's only because Zero no Tsukaima was actually one of the works that helped popularize the isekai genre in the first place. Even Nagatsuki Tappei, who made ReZero, started out writing Zero no Tsukaima fanfictions. I guess we know where the Zero came from. That being said, this anime is memorable not because it was the first to popularize the isekai genre, but it is due to several factors. The first of which is early to late 2000s kinda had a specific genre of anime that were quite popular. And that was Kugimiya being a petite tsundere with zero chill. Let's see, there's Shana from Shakugan no Shana, Nagi from Hayate no Gotoku, and most notably Taiga from Toradora. She was so good at the tsundere role that she got the title, the Tsundere Queen. Shana's Urusai Urusai, or Ruizu's Bakainu, is just immortalized in tsundere history. She just brought Louise into life like no others can. The brief pause she gives while she is flustered or how her voice elevates when mad is so distinctive. Many would argue that Louise started out very annoying, but that just means the seiyuu has done a spectacular job. The Louise-type tsunderes are the product of its time, and it feels almost nostalgic to hear her performance as a tsundere. It feels like a time capsule. Because nowadays, Kugimiya only takes mellow roles, and she is far from being the tsundere queen that she used to be, and that's okay. She is spectacular playing other roles, and these days I prefer seiyus like Taketatsu Ayana for my tsundere fix. I have a tsundere problem, okay? You can tell what kind of person they are from asking what their favorite Final Fantasy game is. If you're sophisticated, you will answer 6. If you're a normie, you will answer 7. And if you're a cult member hellbent on recruiting anyone and everyone around you, you will answer 14. As for me, I'm a weirdo, so my favorite Final Fantasy is Tactics. I love Tactics because of the settings of lords, ladies, and knights, and the concept of noblesse oblige, and the struggles of the commoners against the very power that's supposed to protect them. So when Zero no Tsukaima came out, which got all of those previously mentioned things, I get hooked almost immediately. Zero no Tsukaima takes place in Halkiginia. This world is a world of magic and royalty. Those who can use magic are nobles, and those who can't are commoners. We get to see the politics between nations, or the difficulties in having personal freedom after having a certain status, or even the fact that there is no right party in war. I won't claim that this anime was deep. Far from it, it was a harem comedy after all. But these elements were sprinkled in between the harem comedy parts of the show that it felt like the show had a purpose other than fan service. The anime first starts out in Tristane Magical Academy and slowly expands to the other continents either through political wars or diplomatic missions, and because of these gradual introductions, the show feels fleshed out. Again, these are sprinkled in between the harem fan service. Or maybe I thought it was deep because of it, who knows. You can't have a memorable show without memorable characters, and this anime has them all. And like I said before, this show is technically a harem, but it doesn't feel like a harem just because. Every girl that ends up liking Saito has their respective reasons for doing so. Louise is shown by Saito, her familiar, that there is more to this world than nobility, and as the show slowly progresses, we see her actually listen. And by season 4, she talks out certain issues or problems that if they happened in season 1, it would end up like this. She even gave up her nobility to save her friend, and that was something totally unthinkable during season 1. So what I want to say is character development. Siesta was saved by Saito from serving a lord that wanted her for her, services. But her affection wasn't automatic. We can see that it was slowly formed by a sense of camaraderie between them, coming from the fact that they are both commoners and further solidified from the fact that her grandfather was also from an isekai. And Princess Henrietta, who started out losing her lover due to her not having the freedom to choose him, and begins envying Louis for her freedom to act and to speak her mind. And this turns into admiration towards Saito's own way of life, of not being bound to anything. And this compounds slowly over time, leading her to choose her own freedom so she will never have the same regret ever again. Everyone else that likes Saito in any way have complex developments like these. Maybe except Kirke, she just needs to get bonked. There is a difference between the 90s isekai and the modern isekai. That the former's goal is to return to their original world, but the modern isekai, the protagonist just like living there. Why return to rent and responsibilities when you have anime waifus or OP power fantasy, am I right? But Zero no Tsukaima fits into both of them. Saito does want to return home, and he is given the chance to do so, but chooses to stay with Louis after they develop a band together. Yeah, I was young and dumb as well. I thought this was love too. In a way, Zero no Tsukaima was the forerunner to many isekai that saw the protagonist wanting to stay in the isekai. The difference being, Zero no Tsukaima had a build-up to it, and since we are on the topic of difference from the modern isekai, Saito is not OP. Saito is not a level 1 million epic gamer with a magical smartphone that happens to have a PhD in economics, but he is just a dude. Yes, we later discover that Saito is the legendary familiar Gandalf, and Louis is the user of the void, an ancient magic element that was lost to time. However, Saito is only as strong as the weapons he wields. Being Gandalf gives him complete mastery of any weapon, but that doesn't make him invincible. He loses a lot. Usually it's the teamwork between Louis and Saito that gets them the win. But his complete mastery of weapons comes with interesting situations, just like the legendary Staff of Destruction being a bazooka that got transported into this world, or the legendary Robe of the Dragon being a fighter jet. These modern weapons are the ones that are strong and not necessarily Saito, so Saito doesn't feel overpowered at all. It kinda reminds me of Gate. Who remembers Gate? As you know, Zero no Tsukaima is a light novel adaptation, and like any other adaptation, some elements and plot needs to get cut in order for a piece of visual media to be more digestible. The Zero no Tsukaima anime was adapted with the mindset that every season was gonna be its last, and slowly with each season, the anime have deviated from the light novel enough that the anime is its own thing with some unresolved plot elements. But I can't wholeheartedly say go read the light novel for the author's intended vision either, since the last 2 volumes were written by a different author with the notes from the original author Yaguchi Noboru after his tragic passing due to cancer. So the original vision is lost to us, but that doesn't make the moments of Zero no Tsukaima any less impactful. I'll leave you guys with my favorite moment from Zero no Tsukaima. The Albion army gains the upper hand after mind-controlling 1/3 of the army of Tristane, and the advisor of the princess asks Louis for the unthinkable. He asks her to stall the 70,000 troops of the Albion army in order for the princess to escape. And the princess does not know this fact, so it is a request and not a command, a request that undoubtedly will lead to her death. Louis agrees so she can save everybody and fulfill her duty as a noble. She asks Saito to leave because she wants him to be safe, and Saito reluctantly agrees, but proposes a toast of farewell. And Louis requests, on top of the toast, can we get married? I don't want to die without getting married. Saito agrees, and they both buy flowers called Eclair de Amor for their wedding. They both say their vows, and the flower starts lighting up. The wedding was a success. Unbeknownst to Louis, Saito slips a sleeping potion into their toast, putting Louis to sleep. Louis awakes on board the escape vessel. Confused, she asks, "Where is Saito?" She is told what Saito has done by Julio. Louis yells to be let off the ship, but it is too late. Saito, who stated dying for honor is foolish, rushes into battle gallantly to protect the one he loves. As Saito draws his final breath, Louis drops the Eclair d'Amour as it slowly loses its light. Julio explains that Eclair d'Amour is a magic flower that informs their significant other the condition of their partner, and as soon as that is stated, the flower loses its light completely. And both Louis and Saito yell each other's name one last time. Or do they? Whether or not Saito survived this encounter is not important, but it's moments like these that stay with you forever. And the accumulation of moments like these probably inspired many people to take a shot at writing a story like this one. We may not have seen the waifu wars of Rem and Emilia from ReZero or countless other isekais if Zero no Tsukaima was not this impactful. So its own story was not completed in its intended form, but it lives on in other works that it inspired, and I think that's something beautiful. Hey there, had a bit of a writer's block lately, so I wanted to talk about one of my favorite anime. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you know the gist. Like, subscribe, hit the notification icon, and I'll see you guys next time.